Ladies, we all know when a man says, "You're beautiful," and we smile politely. Not because it isn't nice to hear, but because we've heard it a million times. It's predictable. It's lazy. It doesn't touch the soul. Women are often perceived as complex, mysterious beings, but when it comes to attraction and connection, the truth is simpler than most realize. At the heart of every woman is a deep yearning, not just to be admired, but to be understood, to be seen. These are the unspoken desires that rarely make their way into casual conversation. They're not the things she announces with her lips, but the things she hopes you'll notice with your eyes, your mind, and your presence. Most men believe that complimenting a woman's beauty is the key to her heart, but beauty is fleeting, and worse, it's often generic. Every man before you has probably told her she's beautiful, and while she may appreciate it, it doesn't strike her soul, it doesn't linger. What lingers are the moments when a man touches something she didn't realize was visible, when he recognizes her strength in silence, her grace in chaos, or the way she lights up a room without trying. These are the compliments that don't just feel good, they transform her perception of you. There's a longing in women to feel recognized on a level that most people don't access. She wants you to notice what makes her different, not what makes her attractive. There's a difference. Anyone can see her body. Few take the time to see her character, her ambition, her subtle expressions, or the pain she's mastered hiding behind that perfect smile. When you compliment the parts of her that she believes are hidden, she won't just remember you, she'll crave you. Because you've made her feel real in a world full of surface-level validation. These unspoken desires run deeper than admiration. It's not about flattery, it's about witnessing. Women are moved by men who witness them, who notice her without needing anything in return. A man who makes a woman feel seen is a man who becomes unforgettable. Because in a world that constantly tells her who she should be, you stand out by reminding her of who she already is. These desires are unspoken because they require vulnerability to admit. A woman may not say, "I want you to notice the strength behind my softness," or "I want you to appreciate how much I care without taking me for granted." But she wants it all the same. She wants someone who sees the details, the way she calms a room with her presence, how she listens more than she speaks, how her silence often says more than words. When you tap into these silent needs, you bypass the surface and enter the space where connection becomes magnetic. You become the kind of man she talks about to her friends without even realizing it, because you didn't just look at her, you saw her, and in that moment, without saying much at all, you gave her everything she's been waiting to hear. Most men are taught to be agreeable, polite, and accommodating in the hopes that it will win them favor with women. They compliment constantly, agree with everything she says, laugh too eagerly at her jokes, even when they're not funny, and essentially become a mirror for her desires. They think compliance equals charm. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Women don't respond deeply to compliance. They respond to confidence. Confidence is silent power. It's presence. It's the energy of a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and what he wants, without needing validation for it. When you speak to a woman from a place of confidence, your words land differently. Your compliments carry weight, not because of what you say, but because of the energy behind it. And trust me, she can feel the difference. A man who operates from compliance is constantly adjusting himself to fit into a woman's expectations. He overthinks every word, second-guesses his choices, and tries to be the nice guy in hopes that niceness will earn him intimacy. But confidence doesn't ask for permission to be liked. It doesn't seek approval. Confidence already assumes it's enough, and that assumption is magnetic. A confident man will compliment a woman not to impress her, but to express a genuine observation. There's no hidden agenda. He doesn't say, "You look amazing tonight," hoping to get a phone number or approval. He says it because it's what he sees. And whether she agrees or not doesn't change his sense of self. That's power. On the other hand, compliant compliments sound like flattery dressed as desperation. They try too hard. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You're way out of my league. I can't believe you're talking to me. These aren't compliments. They're confessions of low self-worth. A woman doesn't feel drawn to a man who already puts himself beneath her. Attraction dies the moment a man shows he's willing to shrink himself just to be chosen. Confidence speaks with restraint. It listens more than it speaks. It doesn't over-explain or apologize for having an opinion. And when it does compliment, it doesn't sound like something copied from the internet or borrowed from a movie. It sounds authentic, fresh, and rooted in the moment. It might sound like, "You've got a presence that shifts the energy in a room," or "You carry yourself like someone who knows her value." These aren't about appearance, they're about essence. And when a woman hears that kind of depth, she pays attention. Women are intuitive. They can tell when a man is trying to gain their favor through submission. It feels like emotional bribery. But when a man stands in his truth, compliments with boldness, and doesn't bend over backward to impress, she feels something much deeper than just attraction. She feels respect. And when that happens, you're not just seen, you're remembered. Mystery and depth are two of the most underrated forces of attraction, yet they are also the most powerful. In a world where everything is overshared, overexplained, and overexposed, a man who can hold something back, who can create an air of subtlety and intrigue, becomes irresistible. Women are naturally drawn to discovery. They want to unfold you slowly, not be handed your entire identity in the first 10 minutes of conversation. When you show a woman that there's more to you than what's on the surface, she leans in. She becomes curious, and curiosity is the beginning of desire. Most men try too hard to impress. They feel the need to overtalk, to overshare, to make sure the woman knows every good thing about them right away. They list their accomplishments, try to prove how funny or interesting they are, or constantly seek validation by asking, "What do you think about that?" But what they don't realize is that this leaves nothing for the imagination. There's no challenge, no sense of depth to explore. It becomes predictable, and predictability is the enemy of attraction. Mystery isn't about being secretive or aloof. It's about being layered. It's about revealing who you are one page at a time, not all at once. When you speak, speak with meaning. Don't fill the silence just to fill it. Let her wonder what you're thinking. Let her feel the weight of your presence without having to narrate every detail of your life. When you do share, speak from experience, not ego. Mention the book that changed the way you see people, the lesson you learned from a failure, the thought that kept you up last night, not to impress her, but to invite her into your inner world. Women don't just want a man who's interesting. They want a man who makes them feel interesting. And nothing sparks that feeling more than being in the presence of someone who observes, listens, and only reveals parts of himself when the moment feels right. It makes her feel chosen, not because you're trying to charm her, but because you're giving her access to a part of you that not everyone gets to see. Depth comes from having a rich inner world. It's the result of self-reflection, experience, and emotional maturity. It's the ability to hold space for serious conversation without fear, to ask real questions without flinching, to sit in silence without discomfort. A man with depth can go beyond the superficial and make a woman feel something she didn't even know she was looking for. The comfort of being seen, not just looked at. And the most beautiful part? Mystery and depth are not about playing games. They're about authenticity. They're about being so grounded in who you are that you don't need to show all your cards. You become the kind of man who doesn't just spark attraction, but holds it. Because once she senses there's more to you than what's visible, she'll keep coming back to see what she missed. Emotional resonance is the secret language that speaks louder than words. It's the invisible thread that connects two people beyond logic, beyond physical attraction, and deep into the realm of shared energy. When a man knows how to speak to a woman in a way that touches her emotions, not just her ears, he becomes unforgettable. Because while women may remember what you said, they will never forget how you made them feel. Most men operate from the surface. They say nice things, give compliments, follow the typical script. You look amazing tonight. I love your smile. You're so smart. While these compliments may be kind, they often lack any emotional weight. They sound like echoes, recycled phrases that she's heard 1,000 times. They don't land because they don't connect. They don't move her. Emotional resonance is when your words feel like they were made just for her, when they acknowledge something in her that maybe even she hasn't fully recognized. It happens when you're so present, so attuned, that you reflect her back to herself in a way that feels powerful, not because you're trying to flatter her, but because you're actually seeing her. It might be the way you notice how she listens to others with compassion, how she lights up when she talks about something she cares about, or how she carries strength behind her calm exterior. A man who can tap into emotional resonance doesn't need to be poetic. He simply needs to be honest and observant. He doesn't compliment to gain favor. He speaks truth that makes her feel understood. And in a world where so many women feel misunderstood, that's incredibly rare. That's what creates a spark that lingers. This kind of resonance is also about emotional intelligence. It's about knowing when to say something meaningful and when to hold silence. It's about sensing when she needs reassurance without her asking for it. It's the ability to recognize emotional shifts and respond with calm rather than control. It's feeling the moment instead of trying to manipulate it. And women feel that. When a compliment carries emotional resonance, it touches more than her ego. It touches her core. It might be something simple like, "There's something peaceful about being around you. It makes the chaos in my day disappear." That's not just words. That's an experience. It shows her that your interaction with her has value, not just entertainment. This level of connection doesn't come from pickup lines or charm. It comes from presence, from the ability to be real, to observe, and to speak from the heart instead of the head. When you do that, you go from being just another guy in her inbox to the man she plays back in her mind, wondering, why did that moment feel so different? And that feeling, that lingering impact, is emotional resonance. It's the reason she doesn't forget you, because in a world full of noise, you made her feel something real. The power behind forbidden lies in its scarcity. Think about it. When something is common, it becomes background noise. But when something is rare, it demands attention. These forbidden compliments are not used because most men are too lazy, misguided, or afraid to go off script. They settle for the obvious, the easy, the safe, and because of that, they render themselves forgettable. The compliments that carry real weight, those that hit the heart instead of the ego, are almost never spoken. That's because they require courage, awareness, precision, and presence, calling attention to something few people even notice, and that rarity makes them potent. When you say something unconventional, you reveal that you're not a carbon copy. You reveal that you're paying attention, and that instantly separates you from the crowd. It shows depth, not just in your observation, but in your capacity to care enough to notice. Think of it like discovering a hidden painting tucked behind a faded curtain. Suddenly, there's value that wasn't apparent until someone pulled back the veil. These forbidden compliments are the metaphorical unveiling. Let's look at how rarity amplifies resonance. Every compliment she's ever heard has been predictable. Beauty, smile, hair. None come with a heartbeat. You say something she's never heard before, and suddenly, you're not just in her awareness, you've cracked her curiosity. Your words echo because they didn't follow the usual formula. They were unexpected, and that surprise becomes a seed that grows roots in her mind long after the moment ends. It's not enough to be different. You must be intelligent in what makes you different. The rare compliment must still feel true, attuned, and authentic. You can't fabricate something just to stand out. The magic happens when your compliment reveals something she already senses but doesn't see recognized. It's the moment when you voice what she's felt inside, phrased in a way that's new and vivid. That's rare because it requires intuition and emotional attunement, skills most men haven't cultivated. When something is rare, humans attach value to it. In psychology, scarcity increases desirability. It's the same dynamic with words. When you offer a compliment she's heard 1,000 times, its value is diluted. When you give her something she hasn't heard, something that caused her to pause, even for a split second, that becomes memorable. That becomes something she holds on to. Another angle to consider: rarity is tied to respect. You're not doling out praise casually. Rare compliments imply that you've thought before you spoke, that you weigh your words, that your appreciation isn't the currency of longing, it's the currency of discernment. It's high value because it's rare, and that rarity makes it feel earned. When appreciation feels earned, women don't just receive it, they treasure it. Here's the nuance. Rare doesn't mean obscure or confusing. It means thoughtful, intelligent, and aligned with her. You're not pointing out some obscure trait for shock value. You're picking a detail that means something subtly profound to her sense of self. And doing so in a way that says, I see you in a way that's different, and I appreciate it in a way few ever will. That's the essence of forbidden. It's not magic. It's awareness. It's voice. It's presence. It's the moment you break the predictable pattern and offer something that feels too honest, too precise, too meaningful, and therefore feels almost forbidden in its sincerity. It's the moment that makes her heart skip, makes her think, no one else ever notices that. And when she thinks that, she stops seeing you as just another person and starts seeing you as someone who matters. Tone and timing are everything when it comes to making a compliment unforgettable. You can say the right words, but if your energy doesn't match, if the moment doesn't feel right, those words lose their power. Women are incredibly intuitive. They don't just listen to what you say, they feel how you say it. Your tone carries your intent. It reveals whether your words are sincere, manipulative, nervous, or grounded. And your timing determines whether your compliment lands like a spark or falls flat like noise. When a man gives a compliment too soon, especially before any real connection is built, it feels generic. It feels like a line he's used on a dozen women before. But when he waits, observes her, listens, reads the energy in the room, and then offers a compliment that's in sync with the moment, it feels real. It feels earned. And that makes all the difference. Compliments that feel earned are far more powerful than those thrown around for attention. Tone is not about how deep your voice is or how charismatic you sound. It's about being in alignment with your words. A compliment delivered with calm confidence and presence carries weight. A compliment delivered with neediness or a forced smile feels empty. When your tone is relaxed, grounded, and sincere, it tells her, I mean this. I noticed this. I'm not trying to get something from you. I just see you. That kind of energy is disarming. It allows her to let her guard down because it feels safe and real. Timing also speaks volumes about emotional intelligence. When you know when to say something, it tells her you're present and in tune with the moment. You're not rushing. You're not trying to impress. You're waiting for the space where your words will be felt. That might be in a quiet pause during conversation. It might be after she's shared something vulnerable. It might be when she's clearly not seeking attention, and you choose to acknowledge something meaningful about her presence. These are the moments where your words don't just land, they linger. A compliment that comes at the wrong time, even if well-intentioned, can feel awkward or misplaced. But one that comes with the right tone and at the right time creates chemistry. It creates that sense of, you just get it. And that's not something a woman forgets. It separates you from every other man who's stumbled over his words, tried too hard, or said too much too soon. Tone and timing aren't about technique. They're about connection. It's about slowing down enough to feel the moment, to let silence speak, to be okay with saying nothing until the right thing wants to be said. That's when the most powerful compliments emerge, naturally, without effort, but with deep impact, because they don't sound rehearsed, they sound like truth, and truth, delivered with presence, becomes unforgettable. Reverse psychology is a subtle yet powerful art of influence that works not through direct praise or flattery, but through contrast and tension. Instead of telling a woman exactly what she wants to hear, you offer her what she doesn't expect, sparking curiosity, emotional engagement, and even desire. It's the compliment delivered through restraint, the interest shown through indifference, the attention expressed through challenge rather than approval. And when done right, it doesn't push her away. It pulls her in, because what is slightly withheld becomes infinitely more attractive. Most men rush to validate. They believe the fastest way to a woman's heart is through agreement, praise, and affirmation. But the problem with constant validation is that it can become predictable, and predictability quickly turns to boredom. Women, by nature, respond to emotional contrast. It's not about playing games, it's about creating tension that engages her attention. Reverse psychology introduces that contrast, subtle rebellion against the norm, a break from the script most men follow. Instead of telling her, "You're amazing," you might tease, "You seem like trouble, but the good kind." Instead of saying, "I love how sweet you are," you might say, "I didn't expect you to be this easy to talk to." It's a compliment wrapped in curiosity. It pulls her toward you, not because you're being manipulative, but because you're offering her something emotionally engaging, mystery, unpredictability, and just enough challenge to keep her intrigued. Reverse psychology also allows a woman to lean into the interaction rather than being passively admired. When you don't immediately confirm your interest, you give her space to invest, to wonder, to explore. That uncertainty, when laced with playfulness and authenticity, activates her imagination. She starts to think about why you're different, why you're not reacting like everyone else, why your attention feels earned instead of given freely. And once a woman is thinking about you when you're not around, you've created attraction. It's also about letting her prove something to you. When you challenge her lightly, perhaps implying you're not easily impressed or that you value depth over looks, she now wants to show you who she really is. She wants to be seen. And because you've created a small gap between her expectation and your behavior, that gap becomes magnetic. The key to using reverse psychology well is balance. If overdone, it can come off as arrogant or disinterested. If too subtle, it goes unnoticed. But when your words are laced with playful misdirection and your tone stays warm and confident, you ignite intrigue. You break the pattern. You offer a taste of unpredictability. And in a world full of men trying too hard to be liked, not needing her approval makes you stand out. You're not rejecting her, you're engaging her in a way that says, "You're interesting, but I'm still figuring out how interesting." That uncertainty is not cold, it's compelling, because it invites her to step in closer, to show more of herself, and in doing so, it deepens the connection far more than any ordinary compliment ever could. Validation without worship is the sweet spot that most men completely miss. They think giving a woman attention means putting her on a pedestal, drowning her in compliments, and constantly affirming her every move. But that kind of over-validation doesn't build attraction. It suffocates it. Why? Because it sends one message loud and clear. You are above me, and I'm lucky to even be in your presence. No woman wants to feel idolized. She wants to feel seen, appreciated for who she is, not worshipped like a flawless goddess. There's a difference between validation and submission, and that line is everything. When a man validates without worship, he offers his approval with intention. He doesn't compliment to get something. He speaks when something genuinely moves him. He validates from a place of grounded confidence, not emotional hunger. When he says, "That was a bold move, you don't play small," it means something. It's not flattery, it's a reflection of what he truly observes. It lands because it's not constant, it's rare, it's sincere, and it's earned. This kind of validation doesn't seek to inflate her ego. It confirms something deeper in her intelligence, her courage, her energy, her vibe. It's not about looks, though it can include that. It's about making her feel understood, not just praised. And that feeling is far more intimate than surface-level admiration. She's heard 100 men say she's beautiful, but how many have noticed the way she carries herself under pressure, the way she takes command in a room without even raising her voice? Worship, on the other hand, strips away the balance. When a man worships, he gives away his power. He stops being seen as an equal and starts being seen as a follower. He becomes predictable, safe, too easy. And while that may stroke her ego for a moment, it kills the very tension that fuels attraction. No woman wants to be the queen of a kingdom with no challenge. She wants to know that she's respected, but that your self-respect is just as strong. Validation without worship allows both people to stand on equal ground. It says, "I see you, I admire you, but I'm not lost in you." That message is magnetic because it comes with boundaries. It comes with discernment. It makes a woman want to keep earning your respect, not just bask in it. And that dynamic keeps things alive. A man who validates this way also receives energy, not just gives it. He listens to her, but he expects to be listened to in return. He gives affection, but only when it's mutual. He praises, but not at the cost of his own value. This mutual flow creates healthy emotional polarity, where both people feel challenged, seen, and desired. It keeps the interaction dynamic, rather than flat. So if you want to stand out, validate, but don't kneel. Admire, but don't idolize. Show her that you see her clearly, not through rose-colored lenses. That kind of clarity is rare, and that's what makes it unforgettable. In a world where most men stick to the script, offering shallow compliments, chasing approval, and trying too hard to impress, the real power lies in doing the opposite. When you embrace forbidden compliments, those that are rare, emotionally resonant, and delivered with timing, confidence, and presence, you don't just catch a woman's attention, you captivate her. You become memorable, not because you said something she liked, but because you made her feel something no one else did. You didn't worship her, you saw her. You didn't beg for validation. You offered grounded acknowledgement. You didn't reveal everything. You kept a little mystery. You didn't speak to impress. You spoke with intention. And you didn't follow the rules. You rewrote them, and in doing so, created a space where connection could actually breathe. The kind of compliments we've explored here aren't just lines. They're expressions of emotional intelligence, masculine presence, and self-assured energy. They don't just flatter her, they reflect her, surprise her, challenge her, and make her think about you long after you've gone silent. That's the impact of speaking from awareness instead of approval seeking. Women don't drool over empty praise. They're drawn to what's rare, what feels real, and what resonates. And when you master that balance, validating without worshiping, being emotionally present without being needy, and speaking with mystery, timing, and honesty, you don't just attract women. You earn their respect, their curiosity, and their desire.